What's up, everyone, and welcome to Clear Talk. So, in today's video, we are going to be going over the latest stuff that Trump has been saying at his rallies. It's this turning a lot of people's eyes and ears, and kind of revealing a little bit more about his ambitions and stuff. Uh, if he were to become president, so. We're going to talk about this for a minute and go over how I feel about it. So thank you very much for joining if you are. And if you please consider subscribing, liking, comment, sharing, all that good stuff if you're liking this content. Well, let's just get to it. Got my headphones here because I want to hear too. Not really, but yeah, I'm just kidding. So yes, and we know that there's been Trump has had. I'll tell you what. Let's just do the video. Let's just do the video. All right. So here is Trump speaking at a event at Turning Point Action in Florida. This is like a Christian summit kind of thing. And here is towards the end of the speech. This is what he says.
Vote early, vote absentee, vote on election day. I don't care how, but you have to get out and vote. And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed, it'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote. In conclusion, America.
Okay, so that is the big video going around, and what he's saying right there. First off, one thing that's been brought up is where he says something about I love you, Christians, and there's a question of whether or not he says I am Christian or I am not a Christian. I am a Christian or I am not a Christian. That's been one thing that's been thrown out is which one of those he said, because the way it comes out, initially, people were immediately saying, oh, of course he's saying that I am a Christian. For one, why would he say that there? But when you really listen to it, it kind of almost sounds like he's saying I'm not a Christian. And then and you could argue either way, back and forth. But in the context of the way he is saying it, you could actually see him saying either one. Really, the way he goes about saying it. But what I also noticed is if you look real closely, he actually sort of shakes his head when he says it, almost like I'm not Christian, like that, which is kind of a little weird. But either way,
the people in that area, they're not happy. But we sexual or political content, it'll be fixed. It'll be
next.
All right.
But you have to get out and vote. And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time.
Listen very closely.
You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian.
I'm, because he does this little head bob, almost like he's saying, yeah, I'm not Christian.
It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out.
But of course, when you really listen to it, it could go either way. He probably more or less did say I'm a Christian, because it doesn't make much sense for him to say I'm not Christian, although the way he spit it out, you can't really tell. But either that's the less of this argument, though. The main point is, though, that he is saying, just vote now, just vote this time, and 4 more years we'll have it fixed and you won't have to vote again. And it's like some people that are defending him are saying, well, he's just saying that, if we let him in for another 4 years, he's going to fix everything, and then we won't have to even really worry about, voting for the things that we want fixed. The kind of like what he's basically saying. But but knowing what we know about Trump and his aspirations and what he has said before, um, and what we know uh, of Project 2025 and what they're wanting to do, taking over the government and giving the executive power to the executive branch to the point of damn near um, authoritarianism. I mean, and just a couple of weeks ago, I mean, we've had you know Trump say before, or how he has so much admiration for for other uh, authoritarian figures out there, dictators and stuff. I mean, his love letters to uh, the leader of North Korea. Um, Man, my mind is blanking. I don't know how I'm blanking on his name, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. And then his kind of admiration for Putin as well. And then a couple of weeks ago, talking about Xi Jinping in China, about having how he rules China, whatever, with an iron fist. I mean, it's like he has this way about him where he wants that power. He wants the that authoritarian, like, dictator. I mean, he's even stated, "I'm gonna be dictator day one." And he stated as if it's just going to be for one day, but like, and then here he's stating. I mean, this rewind back. This rewind back.
But you have to get out and vote. And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time.
Just this time.
You won't have to do it anymore.
You won't have to do it anymore.
4 more years. You know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
We'll have it fixed so good you won't have to vote again. Is he trying to say, without saying it, that they're going to get in there and they're going to set it up to where he doesn't have to leave, and we won't have to vote again? That it'll be be done. And that is, we've been trying to say this all along. This man wants to be in control. He wants to be a dictator. He wants to be an emperor, king, ruler. And this is not hyperbole. This is exactly what he wants. And he will do anything to make sure he will make his attempts to stay in power. He tried to do it in 2020. With the whole election being rigged and whatnot, but then he himself did what he could to rig the election to come back to him, the whole time. The fake elector slate, trying to get Pence to change the electorates that he cannot do. I mean, this man he wants to stay in power. And if he gets back in office and gets that power, that's what he wants to do. Even though he pretends like he doesn't know anything about Project 2025 and wants nothing to do with it, or acts like, they're crazy and he don't know what it is. I'm telling you, this man wants to be a dictator. He wants to get in there. He wants to have that executive power to where he has all his little minions and people around him that, fanatics and whatnot, that will do whatever he says and implement whatever he wants, and then he will have full control. It's, I mean, he's damn near blatantly saying it right here. 4 more years, we're gonna have it fixed. You won't have to vote anymore. Why would you not have to vote anymore? Why would you say that? if the intent is not that is isn't that you don't plan on there having to even be an election again. This is serious. This man is damn near just blatantly saying he's going to be a dictator. That's what he wants to be. And that's what he plans to have happen. Which, honestly, to me is kind of crazy at his age in the first place. But, that argument out aside, I mean, that's crazy to me. But then we also, in response to the whole riots and stuff with Netanyahu coming to town, we had, riots, protesters, and there was some people who did get violent unnecessarily. There was is very few people. Most of the protesters and stuff were, peaceful and whatnot. But there were some that did some things that they shouldn't have. Some graffiti work and stuff like. Although the graffiti work was not like pro Hamas kind of stuff. It was like save Palestinians. It was things like that. It wasn't even anti-Israel or nothing. But we had somebody in one like a park or something like that take down the American flag and then burned it. All right. And you had a lot of a backlash about that, especially from your far right conservative people, about the sacredity of the flag and burning it, and that is disrespectful and whatnot. And regardless of what you feel about it, though, it is a First Amendment right. It is expression of free speech, and this is something that has already been ruled on by the Supreme Court. That it is an expression of free speech, and you may not like it, but it is what it is. And our Constitution states that we have freedom of speech, and this is an act of freedom of speech. So whatever. But and for a while, Trump off and on has spoke on this, because we've had this before, and he stated how they should be jailed, or they should be this or that or whatever. There should be something. And this is his latest remarks here.
We do not need more people who want to burn our flag. I watched yesterday and the day before, they're burning our American flag. And I said, I know they say it's unconstitutional. Well, make it not unconstitutional.
So he wants to change it. He wants to make it not constitutional. He wants to put in a constitutional amendment in against a specific right of free speech.
You burn our American flag, you should get immediately mandatory 1 year in jail.
So immediate 1 year in jail. I even saw where he posted on X or whatever, not only just a year in jail, but also taking away your citizenship. Like either or maybe even both. So just because you do an act of free speech and he doesn't like it, or his people doesn't like it, he wants to put in that is a constitutional amendment, to our freedom of speech, to specifically say, but not against the flag. When you burn our flag, it's not free speech, and we will make you go to jail, serving a year sentence, or we might even take away your citizenship, because you're not American if you burn the American flag. If you start making an amendment like that to freedom of speech, then you have created a slippery slope to where then, one after the other, they will continue to make amendments to freedoms of speech. to the point that we don't have freedom of speech anymore. Freedom of speech is freedom of speech. It's in our Constitution. It's been there. It's the First Amendment right. And whether or not, and that is protected speech, even if you don't agree with the protected speech. Hate speech is technically freedom of speech, whether you like it or not, but it is. And the same thing with burning an American flag. And you can consider that, unsacred, or that it was, an anti-American or whatever. But technically, along the rules around the American flag, you're not even supposed to have the American flag printed on like shirts and hats and whatnot, apparel, memorabilia or stuff like that. The American flag is technically not supposed to even done that. That is technically against the rules when it comes to the American flag. We don't see anybody arguing about that, where they run their American flags all over their hats and their shirts and everything else. So, but when it comes to burning it, though, that's a step too far. I mean, this is a slippery slope. But this is the kind of thing that we're talking about when it comes to authoritarianism. Taking away, he wants to immediately take away a protected speech, right of speech, right out the gate. This is what someone with aspirations for authoritarian, totalitarianism, dictatorship, this is the kind of stuff that you hear from them. Don't worry, you won't have to vote anymore after 4 years. We have freedom of speech, but not if you do this. We're going to put you in jail if you do this. What's next? A takeover of our executive branch, eliminating the administration, putting in elected individuals. And actually, not even elected individuals, but uh, appointed individuals. Where there's smoke, there's fire. When someone tells you what they are, believe them. He wants to be dictator day one. And the far right, this is what they want. They want him to be a dictator. They are fine with that because they see him as some savior of our country. And once we get him in there, we want him to stay there. We don't want him to go away. That way we stay saved. We don't have to worry about somebody taking over and ruining us again. They want it set up to where we have an authoritarian dictatorship. Of course, until somehow something happens and there's an overthrow and you wind up with somebody as a dictator that you don't want, then all of a sudden it'll be, no, we can't have this. That's the reason why we have the setup we have in America every 4 years. That way, if somebody does happen to get in there, like a Trump, it's only a minimal amount of damage they can really do in 4 years. And then somebody else can get in there and fix it. I mean, is this what you want? Is this what you want? This is why this type of rhetoric is why this is becoming more and more of a critical election, existential. He is a threat. He's been a threat. He was a threat the first time. Luckily, there were people in there that could hold him back and keep him from doing too much damage. But this time, the setup is there. The book and plans are in place. He has a handbook that's going to be given to him on how to completely take over. And while a what's looking to be our counter, you know, I'm not 100% happy with, but at least there'll be some civility and actual respect to the Constitution and respect to our election process from the opposition. So you really need to evaluate what it is that, regardless of what you might, and I'm not saying don't take into all your, you know, policy preferences and positions and stuff. That's most certainly something that to take in account of and weigh out. But when you're taking pros and cons, if you are on the fence and you're taking pros and cons between Trump and, say, Harris or whatever, make sure one of your pros and cons or what you're weighing out also is the threat of dictatorship. Those extreme things that we normally in the past really haven't thought was that big of a threat. But now it's more coming more and more clear. The far right has been infiltrating into our government, into our Congress, as well, and not only on the federal level, but they are doing it also on the state levels, into our state governments, into our school systems, everything else. Try to change and radicalize everything across the country, implementing nationalist and Christian nationalist ideologies, trying to change and make America look a certain way that it wasn't meant to look and it wasn't meant to function. As in the previous video, we were talking about this kind of thing with Israel and the dichotomy between, the far right and other, and the way they're taking over and completely, causing this on the international stage, just, view that isn't very liking to what, you know, Israel is or should be or, has been. But in the same thing here with us on the international stage, do we really want something like this to happen and that we lose all respect and, decency with democracy and what that means? For, you know, how we've set up the system, and not only just for the US, for the entire globe, pushing for, democratic ran countries. Or democracy style setups. That's what I guess I should rather say. It's more appropriately said, accurately said. just something to think about. Just something to think about. Let me know in the comments what you think. Again, consider subscribing, like, share, all that good stuff. And thank you for joining me. If you've made it this far, yeah, you're awesome. You're the best. And I want to try, just continue to try to build this community, have conversation and whatnot, so we can get some clear talk about stuff like this. You know, make this kind of stuff clear and understood. What does this mean? Is there, is there need to worry about this, or is ultimately our system going to work out just fine, or stay within the realms that it was built for, or is there space for something so dramatic to happen and change the whole setup of our system that could ultimately ruin what we have? Let me know. Thank you very much, and until next time, Clear Talk. I'm out.